Here, how I craft. Alright, I want to show you what the character looks like in game. I'll show you the gear, how I craft the gear, and a quick look at the gameplay of it. So here's my character here, and I've actually taken off some of the gear for another one of my test characters. But these gloves, this quiver, chest, bows, these are exactly what I've been using to test out this character build. We have our Scourge Arrow in the body armor and our Ballista in the gloves. I just chose this body armor because it's got a bit of movement speed. Since I played through the story a number of times now, I wanted as much movement speed as possible. But it's got a few other good things for the build here as well. You really don't need this specific chest at all. Any chest, any body armor with life, resistances, is going to be good for you and your character. Same thing with the gloves. They do help this character a little bit, but for the most part, ordinary equipment that you find throughout the story with life and resistances is going to work well enough. You want to look for more life and resistances on your belt and your rings, your amulets, helmet, boots. Need to have movement speed on boots. That movement speed is one of those things that not only makes the game feel much better to play, but also helps you with defense because you can run around and avoid attacks and get out of danger and all kinds of good stuff like that. So movement speed on your boots is pretty crucial. Quiver, I've just been using whatever happened to drop for me. I was always looking for some life on there. A little bit of extra damage for a bow would be nice, but pretty much just took whatever the game gave me through RNG. So for the bows, this latest character, actually, I finally bought some uniques and wanted to give it a try with that. They work quite well. I bought this 5-link bow at the end of Harvest for 5 Chaos, and it's pretty nice on this build. Absolutely not necessary, but if you do want to trade, there are options like this. At the beginning of the league, it's definitely going to be more expensive. Just at the end of Harvest, not really any end of the league, no one's going to really want an item like this. Same thing with the quiver, it's just got a chance to freeze on here, which is kind of a fun mechanic in the game. It's not necessarily a good quiver for this build at all, but it's just fun for me to play with. Alright, so this character is actually in Act 7. I'm in Act 1 Town right now. I don't want to show you too much of the game. I bought these 2 bows off of the vendor. They're just ordinary items that you'll find when you get to that part in the story. So whatever town you're in, you can just buy a bow. To do the crafting, you'll also need a rustic sash. So while you're leveling, look out for rare ones of these that drop. They're going to be the best option for you. It does not matter what stats they have on them at all, because we're just using them as a crafting material, actually. Now, if you don't find a rare one, you can usually buy one from the vendor. In fact, here we've got a rustic sash that I could buy for 2 scrolls of wisdom. It's about as cheap as anything can be in the game. And then we've got 2 options. We can turn it magic with Orb of Transmutation, which we're going to get these all the time. They're going to drop constantly throughout the leveling process. And then more rare is the Alchemy. So if you've got an Elk, you can go ahead and use it. It's going to turn this item rare, and then when you use the vendor recipe, you're going to make a slightly better version of this bow. But if you were to use a transmute, right-click the crafting material, click the item, left-click the item. It's turned blue now. Add some random mods on it, basically. We don't care what the mods are for, in this case. So I'm going to scour off my magic, and I'm going to use an elk instead, because that's going to give me a slightly better bow after I'm done. Again, don't care about the stats on here, it's not important. Now the bow, you want to make sure that it's 20% quality before you craft it. After you craft it, it'll be magic or rare, and it just simply costs more blacksmith whetstones to get it to 20% quality. You can quality it after you craft it, but it's just going to be a little more expensive to do it. So in this case, I've already done the quality on these, so I don't need to do anything. I got my bow, I got my rare or magic rustic sash. I'm going to take one more blacksmith whetstone. All right, those are my 3 items.
Mm-hmm.
Going to sell it to a vendor. And this is called a vendor recipe. The correct combination of items will yield a special reward. In this case, it's going to be a bow, magic bow with increased physical damage. That's definitely a nice stat for us, so we want that. If I were to use a magic sash, it would have done the same thing, it just would have given me a lower value for increased physical damage. So rare is definitely preferred, but if you don't have one, not the end of the world. So after I hit accept, I'm going to have that bow, and it actually went right to be equipped. You can see it's got the increased physical damage.
Well,
Now, if you have the
lost.
currency, you can use an orb of augmentation on it. It's going to keep it magic, but add one more mod. And we got actually a hybrid, which looks like there's 3, but actually those last 2 are a combination. Chance to poison on hit and increased damage with poison. Hey, well that's pretty cool because actually I'm going poison with this particular version, so that's something I actually needed. It's pretty unusual that you actually get something that you really want, so this was good RNG for me. And then, if you've got it, you can use a Regal Orb. Regal Orbs really aren't worth very much, so you might as well use them. They're very helpful in crafting, but we just don't use a lot of them, so they don't have a lot of value. If you got one, just go ahead and use it. It'll turn it rare, add one more mod. And now we got increased critical strike chance. Critical strike, not that helpful on this character, so it might help a little bit, give it a little bit of extra damage occasionally, but for the most part, we got 2 good mods here. We got the increased physical damage, that's really a good one, and the chance to poison, that's nice. Increased damage with poison, that's nice. So actually not at all a bad result. Alright, and so this is a unique bow I bought just to try it out instead of the regular crafting. One thing you can do is you can check the relative power of items with the tooltip DPS. I put my mouse cursor over the skill I'm using. It's going to show me an approximate DPS, 1434. It's not that accurate, and it can really mislead you in certain cases, but it's not a bad way to compare 2 weapons in an equal kind of a situation. So with this bow I just crafted, 1434, if I swap in this Death Harp, I got 1516. So Death Harp, it's saying a little bit better. So damage isn't really going to be too much difference between these. This does have actually some unique qualities for being a unique item, but I'm not going to talk about that one right now. So that's my bow, and that's the kind of bow that I recommend that you craft for this build. The other way you can go is with essences. So you'll find monsters trapped in essences throughout the game, and they'll drop these items. You can use these as crafting materials as well. The nice is it's going to have a guaranteed mod. When you use that augmentation on this and the Regal, it's just choosing from this large pool of potential mods. You never know what you're going to get. The vendor recipe, you know exactly what you're going to get, but the rest, totally random. So essences, similar kind of deal. So certain types of items will be guaranteed a certain kind of mod. So for example, this is going to add some flat cold damage. That's not bad. Spell damage, that's going to add minions deal extra damage, not helpful for this character. Adds fire damage, damage to spells. I don't know if I'm going to have any essences that are really going to be helpful. I'll use one just so you can see what the process looks like, even though none of these look that great for us. Increased critical strike. Increased attack speed. No, that's a good one. We like that. Essence of Zeal. So I'll right click the essence, and then I'm going to click the bow. It becomes rare with a random collection of mods. Only one of them will be that guaranteed mod, which is the increased attack speed. That's nice. We got some flat lightning damage, we got some dexterity, we got some cold resist. Not a great result, but we can check it. For the other bow, the current equipped bow, it's 1434. Swapping it, it's 1621. It's actually slightly better. So that's not too bad. I think there's some tricky things though. This adds 4 to 51 lightning damage. I don't 100% know if that will apply to our Scourge Arrow or not. So it's the kind of thing where you can test it out and see how well it works for you. I'm going to go with our regular first one. I like increased physical damage more. I might be wrong about comparing these, but you can just test it out and see how it feels for you. Right, so any other gear you pick up and fill these rest of these slots, you're just looking for life and resists. You always want to check your resist on the character screen. Press C, or you can choose it from this menu, character screen. Just closed it. Click defenses, and it's going to show you what your resistances are at. You want fire, cold, and lightning to all be 75%. It's going to if you're over 75% from your equipment, it's going to show it in parentheses, but it's going to stop counting it past 75. So you want to get all of your resistances to 75, pretty much starting on Act 6 and beyond. If you don't, you're just going to die a lot. So anytime you can improve these, get them up to 75, that's pretty much your first priority in terms of staying alive. Second priority is just flat life on items. Anything that's got flat something to maximum life is going to be good for you. The bigger the number, well, the better, obviously. And of course, on the boots, you want movement speed. That's huge in this game.